Yes, you. Welcome to the You're Not Getting Any Younger podcast, a podcast for people who want to disrupt their lives for a good reason, to make it count. I'm your host, Jen Glantz, and every week I'll drop a new episode with stories from real people just like you, who woke up one morning and decided to make big changes, starting with small things. We'll cover topics like entrepreneurship, love, failure, and self-care. Hey, you're not getting any younger, so let's make this an adventure. Ready? This week's episode is brought to you by StretchMinder. You know how the days go. You get super involved in something you're working on, and the next thing you know, you haven't moved in hours. As modern day workers, we sit way too much and move too little. This is the predominant reason why many people experience muscle tension and pain in their bodies today. Did you know research shows that we sit down for an average of 11 to 13 hours each day? This primarily applies to people with sedentary work, as they sit for approximately 6 to 7 hours just at work. All of these sedentary hours are time which you cannot compensate for with a little exercise a few times a week. Much more is needed for your body. Your body is not made to sit down all day. You're actually made to move. StretchMinder is a movement break guide that helps people break sedentary habits and bring more movement into their work days. StretchMinder's exercise snacks are short, low-impact, work-time-friendly exercises that can be done right at your desk. Simply tell the app how frequently and how long you want to move, 3 minutes every hour, for example, and it will curate a list of exercises that fit the bill. Featuring an ever-expanding library of movement, mindfulness, and walking breaks that are designed to keep your body and mind in check while you power through the day. Download the StretchMinder app and get ready to get up from your chair and unlock a steady flow of feel-good movements. Your body will thank you. I downloaded this app about 2 months ago, and it was a game changer for me. I had so much lower back pain, and the reason why I had the pain was because I sit at my desk or on my couch to do work for so many hours, probably like 7 to 8 hours a day. I wanted to take breaks, but I never had the mindset of let's do it. I always just said I'm too busy. But this app was my guide. It was my accountability. It got me up, it got me moving, and it made me feel so good. Now it's something I do at least 3 to 4 times a day, and I don't do it for much time at all, but even in those 3 to 4 times a day, I feel so much better at the end of the day. And also, I just feel healthier. Check out StretchMinder, download the app, you will love it. Hey, any youngers, it's me, your host, Jen Glantz, back with another episode of the You're Not Getting Any Younger podcast. Guess what? Tomorrow, your girl, Jen Glantz, is getting on an airplane. But not only that, I am going to a place I've wanted to go my entire life. This is a place I've been fascinated with since I was a kid, and the crazy part is I don't know anybody who lives there. I don't know anybody from there. I've never been there in my life, and I truly don't even know that much about it. But sometimes, and maybe you can relate to this, we get this calling that we're meant to go somewhere. We're meant to see something. We're meant to just get away and go to this random specific place, and we don't know why. I have absolutely no idea why I've been obsessed with this place and have felt like there's something there for me. Now, the reason I'm not telling you where the place is because I am so superstitious with trips. I have tried to go to this place many times in the past couple of years, but because of COVID, we've had to cancel the trip again and again and again. We tried to go last year, and a day before we got on the airplane, there was a massive COVID outbreak again, and we were both a little bit scared that if we went, something would happen, and it just was too big of a risk. I didn't want to go to my favorite place in the entire world that I've never been before with this COVID scare on my brain. So we didn't go, and we finally replanned the trip to go tomorrow. And I'm so superstitious that if I tell you where I'm going and I tell you all the details, it's not going to happen. So I promise you, in the next podcast episode next Friday, I will tell you not only where I went, but I will also tell you what I found there that I guess I've been searching for my whole life. Now, if you're somebody who is so eager to know, I don't like gatekeeping things. I don't like keeping things from you. So if you're so eager to know, go to my Instagram this morning. Once I get off the airplane, I am going to post where I am. So you can follow me on Instagram at Jen Glantz, and you will know exactly where I went. And if you've been there before, please spam me with recommendations. Because the crazy part about traveling with Adam and I is that we never plan in advance. Like, there's some couples we know who have itineraries, who break down hour by hour what they're going to eat, where they're going to go, what they're going to wear. Adam and I pack an hour before the flight. We have nothing booked. We have nothing planned, and we haven't even researched where we're going. So we have absolutely nothing planned, and we don't even know what we're doing there. My goal is to just land in that place and get off the airplane and start hunting for that thing that I feel like is there for me. I'm scared because either I feel like I'm going to get there and feel comfortable and feel like it was meant to be, or I'm going to get there and go, Jen, what were you thinking? Like, what were you thinking? So we will see. And I'm excited about this trip. The other thing I wanted to mention is yesterday I was on Access Hollywood. I filmed the segment a couple of months ago, and it was super cool. I've done a lot of TV before, and I feel so comfortable on TV. But this segment was super cool because we filmed it at NBC Studios in 30 Rock, which is where they film The Tonight Show and where they film SNL. And it's in 30 Rock, Rockefeller Center, which is such a historic and old Hollywood glam building. And even though I live in New York, I never go to that area. I never go inside that building. The building is an office building with many floors, many TV studios, but the building's also public. So you can walk around the lobby. There's stores there. There's restaurants there. In the winter, there's ice skating. In the summer, there's roller skating. There's so many things you can do. But yet a lot of New Yorkers don't go there. They just go to the outside of the building, or they go to Radio City Music Hall. But when I went to film the segment, I just felt like being in this building really felt so cool. And when they took me to do the interview, we had to walk through the set of The Tonight Show with Jimmy Fallon. And I really so badly wanted to videotape what I saw, but they assigned a person to really just stand by my side the whole time I was there, probably to make sure I didn't film anything, touch anything, or do anything. So I couldn't film what I saw, but they walked me through the green rooms, the behind the scenes, pretty much the set of The Tonight Show, just to get to Access Hollywood. Guess who was there? Demi Lovato. Now, I didn't get to see her. I didn't get to meet her, but I did walk by her dressing room. And let me tell you, it was packed to the ceiling with stuff. Not just food and snacks and drinks, but clothes. Like the coolest rock star-ish clothes you have ever seen, and shoes. There I was wearing my half-priced Zara suit and my aged Forever 21 sparkly shirt, thinking, can I please just go in her dressing room and pick something cool out? I was in a mood that day. I didn't want to wear heels, so I wore TJ Maxx sandals that were $9.99. I figured nobody would see my feet on camera, but I was wrong. And I just passed by that dressing room and I was like, wow, this is so cool. And then I go to Access Hollywood and I go to my area, and they don't even have a green room or a dressing room for me, which they should. And I'm not famous. I'm not a celebrity, but they they stick me in this, I don't even know how to explain it to you. It had like a couch, and that was pretty much it. And I was feeling very grateful to be there, feeling very awesome to be there. It's one of those experiences that I never take for granted, and I desperately wish I could share more with you. I wish I could have videotaped everything I saw, but I'm telling you, that person was on me like a hawk. I couldn't even ask to use the bathroom because that person probably would have had to come in with me or stand outside with me. That's how much I felt protected and I felt watched over while I was there. They even walked me out to the street. I was like, can I float around the building a little more? It's open to the public. Why do you have to walk me out to the street? But I think it was just the nice thing that they did. This past weekend, we went to Central Park. We go to Central Park pretty much every other Sunday. We walk the same loop around the Bethesda Fountain. We have our route. It's such a pleasant, beautiful walk. And I said to Adam, I was like, hey, can you take my picture in front of the fountain? I felt like I was looking cute that day, so he took a bunch of pictures, and by a bunch, I mean a million, but I felt like he couldn't snap a good one. When I went to go look at the outtakes, I was so frustrated. I just said to him, I'm going to go back there, keep pressing the button, and don't stop. Capture every single angle, make sure my eyes are open, make sure I look good. And when I went back to my phone and looked at all the outtakes, I thought to myself, Jen, who are you kidding? You're not supposed to look perfect in a photograph. You're just supposed to capture a moment, energy, emotion. Before we had social media, the purpose of photos were for us to remember, to look back, to reflect, to feel something when we saw something. But now it's to look so unlike us. And I'm guilty of this. The perfect angle, the make sure you have the filter on, make sure it just looks better than I look in person. And I felt really bad about that. I had wasted 15 minutes of our day just trying to get a photo to post to show people, hey, look at me, when really what I wanted to capture was so different. In my heart of hearts, what I wanted to capture was a moment in time that I don't want to forget. So I picked a photo and I posted it. And let me tell you, to all traditional social media standards, people would say it was pretty awful. And I say that because my eyes were closed and Goofy's in the photo and she just looks upset. But it's one of my favorites because even though it wasn't perfect, I felt really happy that morning, like carelessly and calmly happy. And the picture served that purpose. And to me, because it captured that energy, it captured that emotion, it captured that moment. It was perfect. I feel like lately I've been talking to a lot of friends who are in these positions that are a little bit scary. And what I mean by scary is like these positions where their jobs feel like they're on the verge of ending. We're in a time right now, we're always in a time, but even more so now, where nothing is guaranteed. There's so much uncertainty looming with inflation and the recession, and not even to get into these financial terms, but you have to have your back. And we don't think about this until we have to, until there's an emergency or a situation, but we should always, always, always be thinking about what's next for us in our career. I was talking to a friend this morning. She's worked for one company for, I don't know, maybe 5 or 6 years, and it has its perks and she likes it, but there's also a really dark side to the job that she doesn't like and she wants to get out of, but she hasn't and she doesn't feel like she can. But there's been updates and news to the job, and very likely, very, very soon and very without notice, she might get laid off. The company might close. And I said to her, I go, look, I know this is tough and it's easier said than done, but if I were you, I would get my stuff together. I would get my stuff together and I would start planning what is next. Even if you don't need that plan, all of us, every single one of us, should start getting it together and looking for what's next. Update the resume, write the new cover letter, make sure your LinkedIn looks great. Think about building yourself a website. I interviewed someone the other day for an article I'm writing, and I love this guy's perspective because he said to me, every single job I've had, about 3 months in, when I get settled in and I feel like things are okay, I don't let that complacency stop me from applying to other jobs. And he said he doesn't do it in a rush and he does it in his free time, but he'll entertain conversations with other companies. He'll apply to jobs he likes, and usually nothing happens for a while. But then when it does, a year or two later, he's ready to go anyway. And he has offers on the table or connections that he's made. And it made me think about why more people don't do that, why more people wait until they have to. They have no choice. There's desperation pumping through their blood because they lost their job or they left their job to find something else. But what if you looked at your career right now, your current situation, and said, you know what? Maybe you like it, maybe you don't, but what is next for you and how can you start going after that? I moved to New York about 10 years ago. And I moved to New York because I got a job. That was the deal. I didn't have my parents paying for anything. I had to pay for everything myself. And I was working in Florida at a magazine with a horrible, horrible boss. And I had to get out of that job. I had a couple of days off for like Christmas holidays, and I had some friends that lived in New York. So I booked a ticket to come here. I slept on their couch, and I arranged like 20 job interviews for myself. And out of the 20, I got one job, and it was a job in PR. I had no PR skills, no background in PR, but this person gave me a chance and gave me a job in PR. And I knew from the interview, I knew from taking the job that that was not a forever job for me, but it was a job that got me to New York and paid me enough money to be able to afford my rent and to afford my bills. So I took the job. I had about 2 weeks to move, 2 weeks to start. And in those 2 weeks, I still applied for jobs. This is a true story. My very first day at work in New York City at this PR company, I told my boss I have to leave early to move my furniture in my apartment. This is what I told my boss. I don't know how I had the courage back then to do this, but I said to him, hey, I have to leave like 2 hours early because I have a furniture delivery. I just moved here. But really what I did was I left 2 hours early and I ran to AOL because back then it was like a decent company. It was still around. And I went on a job interview at AOL the very first day on the job. I ended up not getting that job at AOL, but I never, ever, ever stopped applying from that day until a year and a half later. That's how long it took me to get a second job, a job I actually liked in New York City at a tech startup. It took me a year and a half because I didn't have an outrageous resume. I didn't have a lot of skills. I was just starting out in my career, but it took me that long. And I'll never forget feeling like, okay, I don't know how this PR job's going to turn out. It turned out to be horrible. I had a worse boss in New York than I did in Florida. But I just remember saying to myself, Jen, you have to have your back. You are responsible for so many bills right now, for your rent in New York, for all of your bills. It's a lot of money you're carrying. I had just moved from living at home where I had very little expenses. And because I had that financial pressure, I kept thinking, okay, whether or not this job works out, what is next for Jen? And let's try to get there now. And that's a story I rarely think about and rarely tell. But it just reminds me that all of us, even me as an entrepreneur, needs to always be thinking about getting my stuff together and thinking about what's next. Nobody in this life, not your job, not your friends, nobody's going to think about you as much as you should think about yourself and stand up for yourself and go out there and get what you deserve. So let this be a motivational speech for you to think about what's next, to not give in to complacency, to open the resume, to edit the LinkedIn, to build yourself a personal branding website, and to do what you need to do to make sure that you're okay, no matter what happens next. Until next week, all my love, Jen Glantz. Hey you! Thank you for listening to the You're Not Getting Any Younger podcast. There are hundreds of thousands of pods out there, so thank you for listening to this one. You can find the show notes for this week's episode up on our website, anyyounger.com. Subscribe, rate, and review the You're Not Getting Any Younger podcast on iTunes so that other ears around the world can listen too. Oh, and join our secret You're Not Getting Any Younger Facebook group, where over 1,000 people are talking about how to disrupt their lives, for a good reason, to make it count. Until next week, all my love, Jen Glantz.